we're here to make sure that a change is made so nobody has to endure the pain that my mom and dad and I go through on a daily basis. The failure to respond and make any changes says to me that what was done to Kate was okay, that she was collateral damage.
Wow. The brother of Kate Steinle breaking down this week while announcing his family will sue San Francisco sheriff and others over the death of his sister. Now, Kate's accused killer is an illegal immigrant with a long rap sheet who was released back in the street. So will her family's lawsuit finally help force sanctuary cities to enforce our immigration laws? Hi, everybody. I'm David Eisen. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus to find out with Steve Forbes, Rich Karlgaard, Sabrina Schaefer, Carrie Sheffield, John Tamny, and Mark Taggi. Sabrina, is this a way to force sanctuary cities to obey the law?
You know, David, I think it might be simply because it's an effort to remind people that federal law, trumps state law, and San Francisco might not like to admit that, but that's the case. And what's really interesting is that a new survey research out of UC Berkeley, it's not exactly the home of conservatism, shows that there is widespread opposition to these sanctuary cities that crosses political lines, it crosses ethnic lines. So I think that her family may be doing something good here.
Mark, her brother makes a powerful point.
This is a tragic situation, but this is another example of what's happening in court and also what's happening in Congress to essentially criminalize immigration. This is a civil matter. We need to tighten up on some of the holes in immigration, but we should not basically fall into the trap that all immigrants are criminals. Because there is an element, David, in Congress that would like us to believe that because somebody's in the country illegally, they are criminal and they're going to commit crimes, and that's just not true.
Okay, I understand. Rich, the point here is targeting criminals who are getting off because of sanctuary cities. Now, Kate's law is one way to deal with that, but the politicians inside the Beltway are dithering on Kate's law. Politicians aren't going to solve it, but maybe the victims can.
You know, David, we're either a sovereign nation or we're not. And sanctuary cities, the whole concept flouts the idea of being a sovereign nation. I, for example, would love to have sanctuary cities where you could go if you didn't pay any federal income tax and escape the long arm of the Fed. But you cannot do that.
And John, the fact is that this is one way to deal with the problem of sanctuary cities that are not obeying federal law. Is it a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it's a bad idea. What happened was a tragedy, but let's not federalize it in a way that's not going to make us less safe. What happened was a criminal act. It had nothing to do with immigration. It had nothing to do with sanctuary cities. So to make it something it's not is a distraction.
Well, Steve,
Lots
the
of
brother
acts
of
take
Kate
place that
thinks
have nothing to do with it.
The brother of Kate and a lot of other people think it has a lot to do with sanctuary cities where criminals, hardened criminals, are let go because of the sympathies of these sanctuary cities.
Yes, this does get down to policing, not only for illegal immigrants, but also for all citizens. If you have a lousy law enforcement attitude, you're going to get this kind of tragedy. It means enforcing the law. It means keeping people in jail who should be kept in jail. Right. It also, I think, will be a spur to finally get real immigration reform with the next president, not with this one, sadly, who flouts the law.
Let's hope. Well, it's not just Texas, Carrie. It's not just California. I was going to bring up Texas because there are plenty of examples there. For the past 4 years, 168,000 criminal aliens have been booked into local Texas jails, accused of 917 homicide charges, 4,739 sexual assault charges. A lot of these people were let out because of the sanctuary cities there.
Right, and that's what I don't understand. There should be a basic level of human rights that we in this country, as taxpayers, as people, as members of this sovereign country, that we deserve protection. So the very basic, let's forget about education for children, whatever, if you're a child. We're talking about criminals. Yeah. Criminals. Like, this is the most basic function of government, to provide protection for its people. Well, that's what I don't understand.
John Tamny, I'm going to go back to you because as a libertarian, that is the crux of what government does. I mean, it protects the people. Not much more than that, but that's one of its primary jobs that even libertarians say it should do. Isn't it missing the gate on this particular issue?
Well, yes, but it should be a local matter. It should not be a federal matter. Sanctuary cities exist so that an immigrant can go to the law enforcement and point something out that's bad that's happening without being pushed out of the country altogether. I think we're damning sanctuary cities needlessly here.
But Sabrina, hold on a second. Sabrina, hold on. Sabrina, we have federal laws about immigration. Those federal laws are being flouted by the sanctuary cities. That has to stop, no?
Right, David, and I think one of the challenges here is it's easy to conflate a lot of the issues. I mean, I sympathize with what Mark was saying earlier in that I agree that a lot of the talk about sanctuary cities and immigration gets sort of wrapped up with some very uncomfortable rhetoric that certainly makes me worried, because I think, as we've said before on this show, we want to change the immigration laws and not sort of point fingers at immigrants per se. But I think to Rich's point, it's really important that we recognize that this is a country of laws, and I am, terribly opposed to Obamacare, but I can't just create a sanctuary city in Arlington, Virginia, and say I don't have to abide by this law. It's simply the way it is.
Hold on, Rich. The point is, this is not about immigrants. This is about criminals, and criminals are getting away with murder.
Yes, but it's also about sanctuary cities and where you draw the line where the federal government has power, and it does have the power. I mean, even if you take the most minimalist constitutional interpretation of what the federal government should do, protecting the sovereignty of the country is one of the things that it should do. And so if you have sanctuary cities, you can flout the law in any number of ways.
Right. Mark, you're not suggesting that the Steinles should be unable to sue the city, are you?
No, I think they should be allowed to sue the city, but I think we're mixing up criminal behavior with civil behavior here, and there's an effort here.
Well, hold on a second. There's no mixing up. There's no mixing up at all in what the guy who killed Kate Steinle did. That was criminal behavior.
In Congress, with Kate's law, there is. We're attempting to criminalize all immigrant behavior.
Steve, that's the point. What's happening inside the Beltway, typical of what happens inside the Beltway, is getting confused. They're dropping the ball all over the place. Maybe the way to deal with this is through the courts.
Well, unfortunately, it's going to take a civil suit to get finally real changes in immigration law, criminal law, and the like. And you see disproportionality all around the country. A Kentucky clerk won't enforce a Supreme Court decision. She's going off to jail. Mayors defy the federal law. Nothing happens.
Carrie?
No, exactly. And it's the same with this administration. If this administration, we have to make this a federal point. I disagree with John. If the city and state levels are not enforcing the basic human rights that we deserve as citizens in this country, then the federal government should absolutely get involved.
John?
Well, again, implicit there is that if they don't enforce sanctuary cities, cities are not safe. Look, the reality is immigrants have a much lower incarceration rate than Native Americans actually do. So the notion that immigrants are the source of crime is just not a realistic...
No, but Sabrina, you want to stop crime where you find it. And a lot of illegal immigrants, because of sanctuary laws, are getting away with murder, Sabrina.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of issues here, and I understand John's point that we want to look at the issue is criminals, not immigration, not immigrants. But there's many, many, many very good immigrants who are adding tremendous amounts of value to this country. But this sanctuary cities are creating an opportunity for crime that we need to stop.
Nobody should get a pass, whether they're an immigrant or a citizen. That's the bottom line. Coming up next, billionaire candidate Donald Trump showing his rivals how to run a successful campaign on the cheap. And maybe also showing why we don't need all those campaign finance laws.